Hi guys, this is MJ of MBTI Time, and in today's video, I will be talking with an ENFP, and together we will be discussing the common misconceptions about ENFPs. So, we're gonna try to debunk some of the known or common stereotypes surrounding their type. And yeah, so let's get right to it.
Hi, so my name is Dwijal. I live in Bombay. I am an ENFP and proud, and I'm a writer. I live in Bombay, and yeah, I guess if you like me on this video, then you can follow me on Dwijal Mehta on Instagram.
Okay, so thank you, Vijal. I'll put in the links down below so you can check her out if you want. So, hi guys, I'm MJ of MBTI Time, and you can learn more about the 16 types and typology, personality typing here on my YouTube channel. And you can follow me on all of my socials at MBTI Time on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and everything else. Okay, so Dwijal and I actually met on Clubhouse. I opened a room and I didn't know how to use it. So I was just hoping someone would come in and talk with me. So I just left it on my phone. And funny enough, and luckily, Dwijal came in. And at the beginning, we were still trying to figure out how to, like, I guess, do the whole, okay, what do we talk about, right? Because I had a title for my room, but I forgot what it was. And then she came in, and like eventually, we slowly started to warm up to each other and like realize that okay, we click, and so we talked and talked, and then like ended up like exchanging our Twitters, our IGs, and all that. So yeah, how was it for you, Visual?
It was a lot of fun. So basically, your name, I think even on Clubhouse has MBTI in it, right? It's MJ MBTI. So I was all like, hey, another like MBTI head. I love talking about Myers Briggs. So I was like, okay, this is going to be fun. And I think I expected there to be a lot more people because I think most of these Clubhouse rooms have like a whole bunch of people in them, but it was just us. I think initially there was one more person who didn't speak and then just like bounced off the room. So we were like, okay. And so, yeah, we started talking about MBTI to begin with. And then I discovered that you were an INFP and I was telling you about ENFP. And I was happy to know that you were like, you genuinely were like properly knowledgeable about MBTI and you weren't just like, like the kind of people who just know just the letters, just the INF people,
Like
they
how
don't know
to
anything about the functions.
right, right.
Yeah, and then we did a deep dive into talking about our functions and our lives and the kind of people that we've dated and what their MBTIs were and how like someone screwed us over and how we feel about that and who we want to date next and all sorts of things. So one of my favorite quotes from one of my favorite TV shows, which is Curb Your Enthusiasm, is when Larry David says that he wants to elevate small talk to middle talk. So I think we did that. Like it's not that we ended up, telling each other our like life stories or secrets or stuff like that. So I wouldn't say it was exactly big talk, but it was definitely we skipped all sorts of so what do you do in the Philippines and like stuff like that. We just immediately went on to, so how do you feel about ENTPs and what annoys you about blah blah. So it was a lot of fun, and I immediately knew that I like this person and I want to talk to this person and be friends with this person. And all my, I think probably both of our senses, I want to make a new friend senses of the INFP and ENFP variety were awakened. And we really got into it. So it was a lot of fun, and which is why I'm so happy to be doing this video with you today.
Okay, thank you so much. I actually feel the same, and I was just like super excited and happy that day because like I was exploring the app and I was just like, you know what, I'll just try it and then see if someone comes in and maybe talks to me. I wasn't even expecting
Yeah.
someone to like, I was just like, maybe you'll say hi and be nice and be polite for like a few minutes and be like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna go. Which is like actually would have been more stereotypical if you were ENFP. But yeah, actually, like we super clicked and like just stuck with the whole conversation and just didn't care if like no one came in anymore because it was a public room. But there was like,
Yeah.
you know what, we're just gonna keep on talking, like share our life stories and be like, yeah, or let's talk again. And I was like, so I'm really glad because like when I invited you were like super down to do it, even if it took some time I'm still happy
Yeah.
that it pushed through. And so I feel
Yeah.
like getting to know you during the type kind of helped me. It gave me an idea that it would be nice for more people to learn more about typology and being an ENFP from also a Jungian perspective, but more importantly from a person who's, a real person, which is like
Yeah.
exactly what we're gonna do today. So yeah, guys,
Yeah.
like we just wanted to share how we met, so you'll have an idea how we got together. And yeah, after this, I'll just go straight to the questions that I have prepared for our discussion today. So again, thank you so much for watching, and let's just get right to the video. My first question will be, what are the common misconceptions about ENFPs?
So I think there are a bunch, but one that I've been thinking about off late is that ENFPs are really, people like to think that ENFPs are very sweet and very cuddly and very nice. But at the same time, I think we don't get a lot of credit for being smart. Like I've been looking at a lot of ENFP and INTJ, the memes where, they're supposed to be the perfect couple and all of that stuff. And while those memes are like cute and funny and things like that, I think that the context is always that the INTJ wants to do something clever, and the ENFP is just this like sweet little cuddly thing, but they're also kind of stupid in the way that INTJs find adorable. But still, I mean, I don't want to constantly be thought of as like an airhead, so I feel like we don't get our due at all. It's like we also have a T in there somewhere, it's not in the four letters, but we do have TE that does make us smart. So yeah, I don't like that. That's number one. So yeah, so while I feel like the ENFP stereotypes are, they're still relatively positive, it's still annoying because it makes you feel like you're supposed to live up to them, that you're supposed to constantly be in a good mood and things like that. And it's like, no, I'm a person at the end of the day. I'm also in bad moods. And I mean, I tend to be a relatively chirpy, positive kind of person, but at the same time, don't take away my like humanness, and especially, I don't know if you've heard of this term called the manic pixie dream girl.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like, especially, a lot of movies and things like that, they make ENFP seem that their entire existence is for like the lead male character, like to make his life amazing rather than to do anything for themselves. That she just like breezes into your life and she makes everything amazing, and then she breezes right out. And it's like, oh, okay, like good things happen to you in this movie or book or whatever it is. But what about her? She's just thought of as a like a service giver rather than a person.
Mhm.
So yeah, it irritates me when there's too many stereotypes. It definitely takes away the humanness
Okay.
aspect.
Which quote unquote stereotypes do you think fit you as an ENFP, and which quote unquote other stereotypes don't fit you very much as an ENFP?
I think the whole anything, the whole like, you're talking about one thing. I'm sure it'll probably happen in this conversation with you. And also both of us have any, so I'm sure we're going to go on like any like ride. But like one thing will remind me of something else, which will remind me of something else, which will remind me of something else. So I definitely, I think like that. I talk like that. So, and just generally, I really like experiences, new things. I'm constantly like thrill me. "Oh, okay, what's this day got in store for me," and stuff like that. So that I think is a stereotype that I think fits. I mean, many do. Like I'm quite talkative and things like that. I'm quite positive. So those things fit, of course, as well. And a stereotype that doesn't fit me at all. Oh yeah, I think a lot of people seem to think that ENFPs love validation, like seeking validation is their like topmost priority, and I always associate that with an FE trait rather than an FI one. I mean, of course, I would like for people to like me,
Yeah.
and I'm not completely like, I'm not a, I don't know, like an ESTJ or an INTJ where I like completely don't give a shit. I hope it's okay to say shit,
Yeah.
but okay, yeah. So yeah, so I'm not as cool as that, sadly, but at the same time, I'm not dying for validation either. And I kind of know that, this is the kind of person where I care and I want them to like me. And then there are some people where I'm just like, I don't like you in any case, so it doesn't matter if you don't like me. So yeah,
Which kind of
that's
makes
one that I definitely don't relate to.
Yeah, and which kind of makes you sound like more like a T with the way you say it, right? With how you come
Yeah.
across sometimes. Because I think a lot of that other, more people pleasing, looking for a validation stereotype, I see that in people who have Enneagram 2 or 9,
Yeah.
just top of mind. And
Mm-hmm.
you might have not mentioned, but you're actually a 8 wing 7 or 7 wing 8.
I'm a 7 wing 8. Yeah.
Right. And so, correct me if I'm wrong. I think this is
Mm-hmm.
leading up to the next question, but like you're not too shy from having debates and discussion, right? More than that's
Yeah.
also one thing. Like having FI, some people would think that we shy away from, well, not confrontation per se, but like also having intellectual discussions or debates. And you're a little
Yeah.
bit more on the assertive side than the soft
Yeah.
baby FI
Yeah.
dot ox user side, which is also
Yeah.
something that I can relate with because I also have wing 7 as an Enneagram 6. So I think leading up to my next question, why do you think a lot of ENFPs tend to mistype themselves easily as ambiverted, or more specifically ENTPs or INFPs? So I think for the
Yeah.
one we talked about earlier, it's more of like the argumentative, more assertive, go-getter, um, quote unquote in your face nature. Not all of the time, but like of course that's one of the stereotypes that they also have. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, what do you think about that?
Um, so I personally have not been mistyped because the first time I took the test, which was about maybe yeah, 10 years ago or so, 8 or 10 years ago, I straight off the bat I tested as an ENFP and I read the stuff about ENFPs and I was like, oh yeah, absolutely, this is me. There's no way in hell that I'm an INFP or ENTP and things like that, because later on I went and read the other types and the description for them as well. But I think like a couple of people who knew a bit about MBTI but who didn't know me very well, like they just gotten to know me, things like that, a lot of them have thought that I'm an ENTP.
Yeah.
And I kind of know where they're coming from, but the place, and I know that they mean well, and they don't know that this is something that annoys me, but it does annoy me, and I'll tell you why. Because I think that they possibly see me as, all the stereotypes for thinkers, someone who's smart, somebody who's intellectual, somebody who can have a debate, somebody who's not like, because the thing is, on the face of it, I don't know too many ENFPs, but this is what but I do know myself. So this is what I think that ENFPs in the real world outside of the internet and the internet stereotypes are like that. Because I have FI, all I do have like an ocean of feelings within me, but it's within me and it's private. Like I'm not going to bring my feelings to a party, or when I go meet someone new, I'm not going to be all like, oh, I have so many feelings, and they're so like soft and tender and things like that. That's for me, not for them. So I don't lead with feelings at all, and I lead with my TE and NE and all my extroverted functions. So I think for them, they're like, oh, you clearly seem like a certain kind of person, and for them it reads as a T person. So they're like, you're not an F person because you're not all over the place with your emotions. You're not constantly like, I'm not a very touchy feely kind of, like a very huggy kind of person. And again, I feel like that people think that ANFPs are supposed to be on one mode only, which is that constantly like, let's become best friends, let's love each other. And sometimes I'm in that mood, but I don't want to become best friends with everybody. Like, I mean, when you and I started talking, when we were in that clubhouse room just by ourselves, like that was a lot of fun. And I feel like that was a very classic INFP, ANFP kind of move, where we were just like, okay, no one else is around. Let's just have like a super long conversation and like get to know each other, and maybe, do this, like record this video, what we're doing right now. I think me agreeing to do this with somebody that I don't technically know is very classically ENFP of me, because I'm like, hey, new friends, talking about things that both of us enjoy and things like that. But at the same time, I'm not this, I don't know, bubbly all the time or with everybody. Like, if I don't like you, I'm just not going to put in any effort. So yeah, I have gotten, I've never gotten INFP, but I've definitely gotten ENTP. a bunch of times. And it annoys me because it's all like, these are all my traits. Why you thinking that that ENTPs are these like super cool people? And it's like, no, like ENFPs can also be like this. So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
I sometimes I feel like ENFPs are thought of as the, the dumb, the whole ugly sister of ENTPs. And it's just like, screw you. No, we're, cool too. So
Okay,
yeah.
that's cool. But yeah, I kind of get you. It's like I also get mistyped as people like reply to my tweets and say, I've been following you for a while. I'm pretty sure you're
Yeah.
an ENFP. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I can be happy too as an INFP, you know.
Yeah.
Somehow. And so it's like a lot of the unique traits that we have as our types. Um, it kind of saddens me because I mean, when we're talking about the stereotypes, it removes the uniqueness and the complexities of a person, right? Okay, you're
Exactly.
an ENFP, therefore you must act a certain way. If not, you're definitely not this type. It's like
Right.
they have more say to who you are than how much you have say about yourself. So I think
Yeah.
that's the weird thing. Even if you've never, I guess, mistyped as an INFP, why do you think, just in theory, would other ENFPs easily quote unquote identify as ambiverted or a little bit more of their introverted counterpart? Because I'm pretty sure you're not always like out there going crazy, right? So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
noticed this in a lot of ENFPs, especially the ones I've typed. Um, it's especially in this pandemic, a lot of them go kind of inward, which makes them
Hmm.
easily think that, oh, for a couple of years I was an ENFP, but like now I've realized that I'm an INFP, right? So or
Yeah.
an ambivert or something like that. Why do you think that sometimes other extroverts or specifically ENFPs might think themselves to be a little bit more introverted than they actually are?
So I read somewhere that ENFPs is supposed to be the most introverted extroverts of all the types, which I think makes a lot of sense to me. And I feel like people who ENFPs who might think that they've switched over to an INFP or they've tested as an INFP, probably what's happening is that their NE is either not too strong for whatever reason, or either they themselves or circumstantially their NE is sort of being like suppressed, and then they're sort of leading with their FI, or somehow their FI, like for me, my FI is extremely, it's a non-visible thing to other people.
Yeah.
It's mostly for me and it's mostly private, but I feel like if somebody is FIing sort of loudly and in front of other people, then they might think that they're an INFP, because I feel like, I mean, obviously, INFPs and ENFPs are quite
Similar.
close, yeah, similar to each other. So it does make sense. Like, it's not wild for an ENFP to think that they're an ENTP or an INFP, because they are pretty close. They're like almost sister types and things like that. So yeah. Also, again, like, depends on, I was in another Clubhouse room actually, and people were discussing this, that you know does your type have anything to do with how you were raised, what gender you are, which country you're in, and things like that, how basically you're socialized into the world? Because you could be an ENFP living in a certain country, and with a certain like gender, and maybe it's not okay for you to be as like happy, bubbly, extroverted, whatever it is, as you'd like to be. And then maybe you still are an ENFP. I don't think your type changes because of where you're born or how you're socialized, but I think you have to kind of um, mute certain parts of you, because it's just not okay to be that way. Similarly, I feel like, with, again, this is something I read somewhere, that with women who have T, um, because the thing is, the expectation with women is that they're supposed to be softer and gentler and more feelingsy and things like that. So I feel like they're forced to adapt a little bit and work on their feelings part a bit more, even if it's literally fake or just for show and just to fit into society. Because I think when they lead with their teas, many times people are not okay with that. They're like, okay, you're behaving too much like a dude, or whatever it is. Like, how can you genuinely not care this much? And they're like, but I do, especially that's why they say like female INTJs are meant to be quite rare and things like that. So I'm sure there are many female INTJs out there. They're just possibly not behaving like the stereotype of a male INTJ or of an INTJ in general, because they're uh, they realize that it's not, it doesn't make sense for them to do that. It might not like play well for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that could be another reason for ENFPs thinking that they're INFPs.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense. Actually, apart from the gender and upbringing, I think those societal expectations also as men or women influence the
Yeah.
way we behave. Actually, in one of the people that I've typed before, some of them mistype themselves to be INTJ, and they're actually INTPs, and it's because for instance, they were born and raised in Singapore, and with the culture that Singapore is known for, they kind of have this sort of expectation with how people should behave, and that ultimately influences a person's way of externally behaving. But again, it shouldn't really radically change our cognitive
Mm.
functions, right? And so I understand where you're coming from, because like I feel like it's not really just exclusive to ENFPs, but many types easily assume that just because we change as people, that our cognitive functions change. But really, many things influence the way we externally behave around others. And like what you said, it might be less strategic to be more like yourself in a place where people
Right.
don't frown upon your natural self, which is what you mentioned earlier. Now, my third question would be, what do you wish people to learn more about ENFPs? And I think you've mentioned this briefly in the first question. But what is it about you or about yourself that you wish people would understand more? That you're not like this, that you're less like this, and that even not just about ENFPs, but really about typology in general, about this whole stereotyping.
Hmm. So I think I'll break your question up into two parts. First, I'll answer about ENFPs and then maybe about typology after that. So yeah, okay. So I think I want people to know that ENFPs are not constantly like, they're not harmless. I think because we lead with just being nice, we want to get along. We're not naturally like very confrontational or acerbic or things like that. We're happy-go-lucky kinds. But I think a lot of people think that that makes us either stupid or just harmless. So you can just endlessly screw us over, and we're going to be all like, "Oh la la la, I love you," and it's just like that is not the case, because I think people should look up this thing called the TE bitch slap. Um, where basically I think ENFPs are really into justice, even when it comes to other people and people they love, even if it's strangers, people they love, and of course themselves. And so yeah, while I'm a quote, like nice person, I'm also heavily into justice, and I'm heavily into like, I think this the Pied Piper analogy is a good one for ENFPs, where the Pied Piper is like, okay, you want me to get rid of all these rats in town, I'm going to play my instrument, and I'm going to have them walk off a cliff. And then he does that, and then the townspeople don't pay him. And he's all like, "Oh, you thought I was just a good guy that you can screw over." And then he obviously gathers up all the kids in the town and has them jump off the cliff. And it's a really dark story. And I'm not saying that we're super vengeful or things like that, but I definitely feel that we can be pushed to those limits. So don't think that we're a sweet little goody two shoes who can't plan and like screw you over. Because also the thing is, while ENFPs are very I think we're good listeners, especially when we care about a person. And so we're very good at making people feel comfortable, which is why another true stereotype for ENFPs is that they can make friends with pretty much anyone, irrespective of their age, their financial backgrounds, where they live, language, all sorts of things. Which I think is very, very true, that I can be quite accepting of people. But again, I feel like while we're listening to someone's stories, and while we're listening to their, plight in life or whatever it is, we're filtering out, I think it's very, very subconscious, but we're filtering out things that if they screw us over at any point, these are things that I'm accepting about person A, and being nice to them about it. But at the same time, I realize that I can figure out what would hurt another person really, really, really well, because I also know how to make a person feel safe I know how to provide empathy, but at the same time, I know how to like screw you over. So I've got an entire like armor of like I've got a lot of weapons that if I really, really want to, I could verbalize and like make you feel really, really, really bad about it. So yeah, I think people should be aware of that. And the second part, typology in general, is that yeah. So there are a couple of people who make like YouTube videos or things like that who I really like. I tend not to follow too many like individuals who do stuff with MBTI because I think a lot of people have these like strange ideas about MBTI that the people who don't like MBTI or say that it's nonsense and stuff like that, it almost gives them more ammo against people who are into it, which is that, oh, you're an ENFP, you should be a talk show host or you should be a blah blah. Especially like careers wise, like I can be a research scientist if I want to. Anybody can be anything. And this entire if you have feelings, then you're constantly doing feelings. If you're thinking, then you're terrible at verbalizing your emotions. Like INTPs are robots who never fall in love, and INTJs are whatever, like evil geniuses, and they're the joker and someone is something. I feel like, again, like going back to what you said, that it takes away human complexity, which is why a lot of people who don't like MBTI, they're like, I'm not one of 16 types, I'm a unique snowflake, I'm an individual. So I think I like to think of um, typology as it's like a jumping off point. It's a springboard that you can use it to figure more complexities about yourself, rather than it's not a reductionist thing. A lot of people like to think of it as, I am these 4 traits. I think it's that I like to think of the 4 traits that people will keep talking about each particular type as something that, okay, now that I know this, what else am I? So I think people need to be careful of who they follow, because I just think I'm sick of all the. I mean, I know it's fun to look at all the memes where the types in during the pandemic and things like that, and it is funny, and those things work because um, people are going off the stereotype. But I think you need to be able to separate, laughing at the stereotype and sort of having fun with it, and actually believing literally every stereotype. Like I'm sure like an INFP can be a CEO, and not even can be, I'm sure there's like loads of them out there.
Yeah.
So I think that really, really annoys me when people think of types as just one thing. So
Yeah.
people need to follow better people who have more nuanced views on MBTI.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's something that I've always been trying to be more careful of, because like I think the danger with personality typing is that we either conform to what we conform to what we think we know about a certain type, and then we either adhere to that, or we look for those things in other people, especially the negative stereotypes, right? For example, you
Yeah,
believe certain types to be just like this. You must be like this, therefore I will avoid
yeah,
you. And it's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
I know that all of us have fallen to the trap of experiencing 1, 2, 3 negative things about somebody, a certain type, and then kind of like projecting that to everyone else. It's like, I mean, I personally have experienced this also, I guess, an INFP. Because of course we get shit on for quote unquote being too emotional or being too emo. But
yeah,
again, when you actually, much like ENFPs, when you look at real ENFPs or INFPs or other types in the real world, we're not gonna look like the memes. Memes are fun
yeah,
until you actually take them too seriously, to the point where you shut your doors on certain people, you shit on certain people, or even the opposite spectrum, you go around looking for that one person because you believe them to be your golden pair, which is not really a bad thing, but it might potentially prevent you from getting to know people, because I've known
yeah,
some who are too hyper focused on finding their ENFP or their INTJ or their INFP, ENTJ, any other type. They get so fixated expecting that that person, that type will fill that void. That, oh, if
yeah.
I date
Makes sense.
them, right? If I date them, everything's gonna be great. Well, you know, in reality, relationships are a little bit more, not a little bit, they're actually way more
Yeah.
complicated and hardworking than just finding your, you know, ideal compatible type on paper. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's why we should take a lot of the stuff that we see, even I personally post, with a grain of salt, because
Yeah.
it can be very dangerous. Okay, so for the last question, basically I want to ask what you think is a picture of a healthier, maturing ENFP versus a more young, you know, less healthy or immature ENFP. And think what advice can you give to the younger ones after?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, this advice is for younger ENFPs and probably for my younger self as well. If I could, turn back time and go to maybe like 10 years ago or so, then I should have heeded some of the advice that I'm about to give now. But so I think the number one thing is, and I think this comes with time, which is proper use or the use of TE at all. Because I think when you're younger, when you're in your teens and when you're in your early 20s and things like that, you've definitely started using your any. I mean, I think ENFPs are sort of born using their any, so that just comes naturally. Then you get into your FI a bit more as you grow up. But I think your TE starts developing probably, I would say, like after 25.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think it just gets better, because I think with the use of TE you get a lot of follow through, which ENFPs tend to, they're meant to be great initiators and great starters of projects, of things, and they have a lot of dreams and they want to do so much, but they end up completing pretty much nothing. And that was the case with me as well when I was younger. And I finally, I tried to develop my TE extremely consciously as well, because I realized that I've got a lot of good ideas and a lot of good things in me, but if I don't make it tangible, concrete, if I don't develop follow through, then I'm just dead and I'm always going to be unhappy. And I don't want to be unhappy. So, um, yeah, good use of TE, like not just follow through. I think TE is also good for like when you're feeling a lot of the negative effects of FI. Because I feel like the good thing with FI and the bad thing with FI is that your emotions are very pure and unclouded by the external world, and they're very people can't influence you very easily emotionally, because that's the way that FI works. But when you're in a rut, or when you're feeling negative things and you're in some kind of negative loop, I think TEE is very good at pulling you out of it. Because or the most that any can offer you is that any is really good at distracting you, but it's not good at keeping you there. And then you go into a whole like escapist solutions, because that's probably the best that any will can offer you when you're in a bad space. But TE is like, let's make a plan, let's write things down, let's follow through, and let's get you out of this. So TE is like the older brother or sister that I think all ENFPs need, and I have a lot of respect for it. So that's one. The other thing is, so again, like I think using your FI well, like check in with the world when it comes to your feelings. That are you okay to feel this way? And also, I think ENFPs don't have a hard time asking for help. I don't think we're that proud, but at the same time, we tend to go inside ourselves with our FI. And I think sometimes just something as simple as just telling your FI to shut up. Because FI can, especially when you're in a bad place, it can be a little like, it's so like, oh, this happened to me, and then this happened to me, and this person was so mean to me, and oh my God, my feelings. It just constantly wants you to listen to like emo music and like weep when it's in a bad way. And when it's in a good way, of course, it makes you feel a lot of good things as well. But so sometimes I think again, TE is really good at being like a strict like mom or dad or an older sibling, where it's just like shut up, like enough already, just move on. Like you have one more hour to cry about whatever it is you're crying about, and after that you have to just start doing other things. And TE is really good at checking in with your FI that, okay, what is it that you want? And then FI will say, okay, I want X. And then TE is like, okay, here's how we get X, because just by hoping and wishing and praying and dreaming, this is not going to become a reality. So it's a good, it's, it's your T is your pal, fellow ENFPs. Don't think of it as this is so not me. It is you. It might find you, or you might find it a little bit later in life, but that's okay. So yeah, FI working in tandem with TE is definitely something that you should aspire to do as you get older. And the other thing is, I think, yeah,
Fight, you gotta fight,
yeah, and so basically, I think I have an answer for each of the functions. So we're done with FI, we're done with TE. So now I'll talk about. So with any, I think that FOMO, that if I don't go to this one event, don't take a chance and experience everything, somehow logically dating everyone, having 25 different jobs, leaving no stone unturned is what, it's just not wise to explore every single option out there. Like sometimes it's good to burn a few bridges. It's okay, you're not missing out on that much. You don't need to go to every party, you don't need to explore everything, because some things you can just theoretically explore and then you can rule them out, saying that this is just not for me. This is again something that I would struggle with a lot more when I was younger. I still do struggle with it, but a little bit less now, that not everything is worth a shot. And that sometimes it's okay to take some time out where you're just processing and not exploring. I mean, any almost like bullies us to go out there and, check out everything that exists in the world. But sometimes it's like, even things like, I do my exploring on these particular days or within these hours, and these are the hours that I just sit at home and I just process. Because I think when ENFPs are out a lot exploring, they tend to ignore their FI. And then I think FI starts throwing like a bitch fit in very strange ways, that you're not coming back home and processing enough with me. So I'm just going to show up while you're out somewhere, and I'm going to make sure that you're in a bad mood, or you're like crying to your friend randomly in the middle of like a house party or something. So you need to not ignore your FI and not go too heavy duty into any mode. And I think for SI, my thing is that my SI, I don't know if this is the case for everybody, but my SI makes me do a couple of things. It makes me, since it's my fourth and like, last function within the first four, it makes me seek a lot of familiarity and comfort. It's the exact opposite of what my NE does to me, which is like new things, new things, new things. SI is to like watch the same TV show for the 100 millionth time, stick to the same place, to the same people. It wants the tried and tested route all the time. And I think a lot of my fears come from SI. So sort of just making, it's obviously my least favorite function. I assume for most people their fourth function is probably their least favorite function, because I'm the most uncomfortable in it. Like I don't know how to use it well, and I probably will never know how to use it super well since it's so low in the functional stack. But try and be like civil with it. You don't need to become like your fourth function's best friend, but just figure out what makes it tick and stuff like that. And I think it'll make your life a lot easier. And the other thing with SI also, it's like this also I read about ENFP somewhere. They tend to ENFPs and ENTPs, both of us have SI as the fourth function, that they tend to repeat a lot of mistakes over and over again, like the same mistake over and over again, because I think I'm not a good learner from mistakes since my SI is so low. And so I think if you can, screwing up or fucking up with something over and over and over again, probably, I don't know, maybe speak to a therapist about it or write it down in a journal or things like that, and just try and be conscious about it. And when your SI is telling you, oh, hey, listen, be cautious. Don't be the, the typical throw caution to the wind, like I'm going to dance in the rain, ENFP. Sometimes it's okay to be boring. And I think ENFPs tend to have a very hard time accepting that sometimes you have to make the boring choice, but it is important. So yeah, that's what I have to say.
I think with SI, the way it can help a lot of ENFPs is like similar with INFPs is to really allow it to ground you. Because,
Yeah.
SI helps you. Sometimes the routine helps, right?
Yeah.
PE helps you to get it going, and really mute the NE and FI. But SI would at least help you accept and acknowledge that sometimes it's okay to keep on doing the harder things repeatedly, right?
Yeah.
Finish a task, like
Yeah.
have a checklist, like do it repeatedly. And if you have those set in place, then you can go and explore. Otherwise, if you keep
Yeah.
on doing the NE and FI, like going to random places based on what you feel like doing in that moment, and really not processing what you should be doing
Yeah.
in life and planning long term or even taking action, then allow all of the functions come together to help you come up with a plan. Stick to it,
Yeah.
like as any other TE dom or ox would tell me. Like, finish the work first before playing. Which is something
Yeah.
that's hard for me because like I feel like the way I work is when I get to play. Play first, like
Yeah.
whatever, do everything that I can before like I sitting down and like, oh shoot, now I have to do the thing. Um but now as we become older, I think it's important to realize that it's best to avoid certain mistakes, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes repeating those mistakes might be bad for us, especially if it's in like areas like relationships. If we keep repeating
Mm-hmm.
the same mistakes in the relationship aspect, that might be detrimental for all of us. Because I know that a lot of we are idealists, and sometimes we assume the best in people to a fault and think that if we just try hard enough the next time, repeat the same
I know.
mistake,
Yeah.
oh, it will be
Yep.
better. If I hard them love enough, they're gonna change. But like
Yeah.
round three, it's the same,
No. I'm sick of doing that.
right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, like learn from it and like stop doing it. So I think
Yeah.
I'm glad that you mentioned the whole it's okay to say no to certain things. It's okay to be boring sometimes, quote unquote boring. And you don't
Yeah.
have to go to every country because like I feel like I've noticed with other ENFPs also that they really just want to venture out. Sometimes it comes across as, or what happens to NFPs or in general for NPs is that it becomes very impractical, that you find yourself sometimes at worst you might find yourself in debt, or you might find yourself in not being to finish something that you should be finishing. I'm not being able to save, which is something that being more financially stable and be able to plan for the future is also something that we can't avoid. So
Yeah.
we shouldn't use our types or as an excuse to not take care of
Exactly.
ourselves also, right? So
Yeah.
I think that I'm glad that you actually gave an advice like per function, even the ones that you're not particularly fun with. And
Yeah.
yeah, how do you see yourself evolving over time? Because like I feel like you're in the growing phase. Like I remember in when we had our clubhouse discussion, you said that you partied a lot when you were younger. Did you just explored and did a lot of the things that you enjoyed, and now I feel like you're slowing down. If I remember correctly, you said that
Yeah.
you're slowing down a little bit and going inwards and like thinking, what should I do or what should I focus on now? And so
Yeah.
where do you see yourself evolve in the next couple of years, especially as an evolving ENFP? You mentioned some of the objective, hopefully, facts that others would aspire to and reach. But you personally, what do you hope to I guess, improve on now that you're as we get older?
Um, I think one thing is I don't know if this is particularly type related, but again, I read somewhere. I think a lot of my sentences today are starting with "I read somewhere."
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is like classic key of me that you mentioned something which reminds me of something which reminds me of something else. But anyway, so I read somewhere that become the man that you want to marry, and so I feel like as an ENFP, I have a lot of romantic idealism, and I've dated a few people and been in love like 2-3 times and things like that. So I think that earlier, all the things that I sort of didn't have, I was like, oh, I want them in another person. But I think what I do want for myself now is that all the things that I don't have, I want to cultivate them and I want to get much better at them so that I'm a much more complete person. Because I think that your completeness or incompleteness is, you'll end up attracting similar people in terms of what you're like. If you have, if you're 60 or if your life is like 70% trouble, you're probably going to end up attracting somebody who's also 70% trouble, and that's obviously not a good combination. So all the things that I admired in either friends or boyfriends and things like that, I want to start, and I already have started working on those things, and I want to become like an expert at those things. Again, things that I struggle with, like discipline. And so as a, like, up until I was, or even till my late to mid 20 sorry early to mid 20s, I used to think of discipline as a really like ugly word, a really boring word, a really dull word, that other stupid, boring, non ENFP, effervescent, charming, people have to rely on. And I don't need to rely on stuff like that because I'm a magical, glittery genius or something, what I thought at the time. But I don't think of it as an ugly word anymore. I still don't like authoritarian discipline in terms of, I don't want somebody else telling me that be disciplined in such and such way. But I definitely do love the whole Karate Kid version of discipline, which is to say self-discipline. So I want to become good at that because I find that that's one of the key things that's standing in the way of me becoming a much more like a go-gettery kind of person. And again, like, I have nothing to prove to the world as such, but I really want to be like, of late I've become really invested in being super proud of myself, so I think that if I work on self-discipline, then I will be able to do a lot of things that I previously wasn't able to do, even though I really wanted to, or I loved them and things like that. So I see that as well. And weirdly, I also see myself, like, now that I started leaning into my TA a lot more. I think that maybe in the next, I don't know how many years, but I don't know, let's say 5 years, 10 years, I also see myself leaning into my SI a bit. And I think that will help me slow down. I mean, it's just age. It's not just your, which type you are and things like that. But also, I think slowing down might be a good thing for me because, again, I'll be able to, like, put down some roots and, like, not just finish more things, but figure out that maybe I have slightly, like, figure out a whole new, like, side of myself that's not constantly chasing, a side that can just sit here and be more like Zen or be more in the present. Because I think a lot of N types have this thing where they're all in their heads because they're all about the abstractions in their heads. They're not tethered to the real world at all. Like, physically I might be here in this room in Bombay, but in my head I'm like light years away. But sometimes it's good to be in the present, like, feel your, like, body more, feel your, like, get better at, like, again, I think of these things as such, like, dull things because I hate my body, not in terms of, like, I hate my body the way it looks or anything like that, but just in terms of I hate having a body at all. Like, I think of it as a burden. I want to be all head, and maybe head and heart, of course, since I am an F type. But because it's just like, there's just so much maintenance, things like brushing. It's just like, why do I have to do this? It's like owning a really expensive car and having to constantly maintain it. It annoys me. Like, I hate things like sleeping because it's just like, why can't I just be awake 24/7 and just think all of my 500 million thoughts? But I think SI will make me good at doing those things, like have a set time that you wake up, have a set time that you sleep at, be kinder to your body. Like, I'm the kind of person who, even if I'm kind of like today I was unwell, I was telling you, right? And I was like, no, but this is going to be so much fun. I definitely, do want to do it. And thankfully I felt better eventually. And so obviously we are doing this. And also my TE was all like, no, you will follow through. Like, you're not letting, an excuse, make you break this commitment and stuff like that. But generally, I'm the kind of person who, like, even if I've just lost like my arm like 5 minutes ago, someone's like, hey, want to go have fun? I'll be like, yes. Like I'm so addicted to having fun that sometimes it's at the expense of my physical well-being. Not even sometimes, most times it's at the expense of my physical well-being. And unfortunately, I do have a body. I am a human being, and I will have to take care of it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to SI telling me that, sometimes just like zen out a little bit and be in the present, and don't constantly chase the fun high and the dopamine rush that I tend to be so into. So yeah, these things. Hopefully it all works out.
Yeah, actually, it's funny because a lot of the stuff that you're seeing is something that I should also apply myself, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of expected, but I really genuinely relate with you, and I appreciate that you shared all of those things with me and the people who will watch this video, because I'm pretty sure that
Yeah.
those who will watch this really want to know, because we've never mentioned the P word. That's kind of funny. Like we've never mentioned procrastination. That's like the biggest problem in the world. For
Procrastination, don't
right,
pal.
it's like it's like no elephant in the room. It's like, oh, it doesn't exist. I just hope to be more like this, but like, oh, it exists. And so it's like it's nice because it's just a known fact. It's a given. We have those struggles, but we don't want to be overcome by them. And
Yeah.
I'm happy that you offer the side where people can resonate with, learn from, but also be more hopeful that we ought not to be um accepting in just how we are wired, right? Oh, I'm
Yeah.
this type, therefore, that's just how it is. That's not how um personality theories or typing should be used. And I
Yeah.
think this should not hold us, it should help us to be more accountable to the stuff that we do or don't do.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's great to be whatever type you may be, whether ENFP or another type. But also to remind ourselves that at the end of the day, whether you're inclined to certain actions or certain behavior, we can always opt to change and improve for the better, right? And that's why
Yeah.
it's good to have. That's why I really want to have these discussions, just because like it also shows that we're all not perfect. We're all a work in progress. It's just a matter of, will you do something about knowing what you know now, or are you just
Mm-hmm.
gonna be like sit back and accept that that's just how I am, take me or leave it, right? So
Yeah.
it's nice to have like a healthier perspective and have these discussions so people can see,
Yeah.
I guess, different points of view. I'm pretty sure that many people will have different opinions on certain things. But again,
Yeah.
that's why we're doing this. It's like not everyone will have to have the same opinion, but at least we get to share our point of view. So
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you so much again for really
Thank you for having
joining me,
me.
and yeah, thank you for joining me in this conversation. I'm pretty sure a lot of people learn from this, and I'm excited.
Thank
Hopefully we
you.
can do it again for another series,
Yeah. That's super.
right?
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll see each other at Clubhouse. So
Yes.
thank you guys. Feel free to follow her. I'll just put the links down below. If you wanna get in touch with her, and yeah, let me know which type you want me to collaborate with next. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Follow me on my socials at MBTI Time on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And if you're not sure if you're an INFP, INFJ, ENFP, INTJ, INTP, or any other type, book a typing session with me by visiting www.mbtitime.com. Links in the descriptions down below.